time. So it's a fantastic and amazing addition to the space station. And I'll show you some scenes out of it here in a little bit. As I mentioned, we moved what we call regenerative life support equipment in there, and that's what you see here with these large, what we call racks, being moved from one module into another. And this is the place that maybe you've heard that we take the urine that's collected in the toilet and recycle it into drinking water, and it works very well. It's cutting edge technology and something that will have a direct application in the future. We're also doing, as I mentioned, a lot of experiments on board, and here's just a couple of examples where I'm harvesting some plants in a DNA experiment. Here's another experiment coming up here. Looking at the growth of willow trees in this case, trying to understand the role of gravity in what they call it's a difference in the formation of the wood due to forces on the tree. Reaction wood is what they call it. Here's a facility that we have. It's a freezer that is used to preserve samples as we collect them for return to Earth. Here's a view outside that cupola that I mentioned. Again, 7 windows. You can see the entire globe at one time. So it's a view that we, to date, until this time, we hadn't had available to us. It's a fantastic view, and so all of us in our free time, whenever we get a chance, we come out to the cupola to spend time there. And here's some examples of the views of Earth that you can see from the space station. Specifically through the cupola. This is water reflecting the sun at a low angle, and you see the beautiful cloud layers in the atmosphere. There's a sunset, the last few seconds of a sunset, and the atmosphere above. The different layers of the colors of the atmosphere are just incredible as we see them. We go around the Earth every 90 minutes, so you can see a sunrise or a sunset twice in that time, 16 times a day. Here's a glacier in the Patagonia region in the southern end of South America. Just very beautiful, incredible patterns incredible patterns and colors. Another glacier. Here's an oblique view of the Grand Canyon during this past winter time, where you see snow on the rim and you see the ruggedness of the canyon. Here's it's either Mount Everest or near Mount Everest in the Himalayan mountains. Again, an oblique view. Coral reefs in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean Sea, just incredibly beautiful. Here's some other coral in Mozambique, in southeastern Africa. Some salt domes in a salt desert area of Iran. Just a very amazing pattern and colors. Sand dunes in the Sahara Desert. Again, you see the pattern and order and incredible beauty of the Earth. More sand dunes, this in Saudi Arabia or Yemen, around the border between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Here's a delta river in Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. Incredible red colors. Here's another river system in Australia. So you can see some of the variety that we can see on Earth. This is a coral island called the Seychelles, which is in the Indian Ocean. Washington, D.C. You might recognize the Pentagon there in the lower part of the screen, just right of center, and the mall area in the upper part of the screen. New York City at night, just to give you another example of what can be seen from orbit. This is a rare cloud we call noctilucent clouds, which can be seen only a couple times of the year when the lighting is just right. In incredibly beautiful texture over the poles, either the North or South Pole, or the aurora as we pass over, and it can be seen also both in the North and the South. This aurora is not showing up very well, but you can see Minnesota and St. Paul in the lower part of the screen and Duluth in the center. Here's an erupting volcano in the Caribbean Ocean that continues to erupt. Here's Kennedy Space Center with the 2 shuttle launch pads on the right, or on the left, I'm sorry, there. And here's a plume caused by the solid rocket boosters about 20 minutes after the launch of STS-129 back in November. So that's another aspect of the space station experience is, of course, viewing the Earth and having that incredible vantage point to view it. In March, it became time for the end of our stay on board the space station. So again, we had a change of command, and Max and I prepared to leave. It was just two of us coming back this time on the Soyuz. And here we are in the final preparations in the hatchway, getting into our Soyuz, saying goodbye to the crew that we had spent the previous couple months on board with since just before Christmas time. Wishing them well. They're, by the way, still on board. They're scheduled to return to Earth at the first part of June. We closed the hatch, spent about 2 or 3 hours preparing for undocking, and then undocked from the space station again in our Soyuz. The Soyuz is made up of 3 segments, and we do a deorbit burn of the main engine to slow down, and then those 3 segments separate. We're in the center segment, which is called the descent module, and that has a thermal heat shield which protects us from the incredible heating outside as we re-enter the atmosphere. The other 2 modules at that point just burn up into the atmosphere and break up, and of course we come through safely through the atmosphere. We're located right there in that module. There you see the re-entry and animation of the re-entry of the spacecraft. After we slow down and get through the major part of the atmosphere, the upper layers of the atmosphere, the parachute opens, and that's what you see again in an animation here. So we go through the parachute opening sequence and then descend down, and these are actual still photos of our descent. They have search and rescue forces out at the landing site. This again is in Kazakhstan, in central Kazakhstan this time, and there's the actual touchdown. You can see it was covered with snow, and you can see the snow blowing up there around the capsule. The search and rescue forces were there within a minute or two, pulled us out of the module, flew us back to an airfield, and then we got on an airplane, flew back to Russia, and here's our welcome back in Russia. I spent about a week in Russia for debriefings and some medical evaluations, and then returned to Houston, where I joined my family after being gone for a total of about 8 months, to include the pre-flight period. There I am with my wife and sons, daughter-in-law, and grandson as right after arrival back in Houston. So it was an incredible journey, one I'm very honored to have participated in. And again, it continues. We have Expedition23 underway, as I mentioned. The crew that we shared some time with will return early June, and then shortly after that, in late June, there'll be the next Soyuz launching from Kazakhstan with another 3 folks to replace these 3 that will return in early June. So, and our intent, of course, is to continue to fly the space station for many years in the future. Again, it's very international with lots of countries participating. So I think we have a little bit of time for some questions that you might have. And I think there's a microphone up here so that when you ask the question, everybody can hear it. So I think the intent is, if you have a question, come on up here and go ahead and ask it.
Anybody have a question?
How does it feel coming back on Earth?
The sound system isn't working yet, but we'll get it working. The question is, how did it feel coming back on Earth? It's quite a shock to come back on Earth, because you are up there for a long period of time. The vestibular system, which is the system that senses balance for us, that allows us, for example, to stand with our eyes closed, and it senses what way is down, so we're able to maintain our balance that way. In the absence of gravity, the vestibular system doesn't work anymore. In fact, over a period of time after you've been there a while, the brain basically turns that signal off. It ignores it because it's not working. Well, when you return to Earth, the brain's not used to paying attention to that because it hasn't been there, so it takes a little while to regain your sense of balance. So when you come back, you'll see people, if you watch real close, they're a little bit wobbly. The first day or so, we have somebody right behind us ready to grab us if we stumble a little bit. So the sense of balance is definitely impacted. going up there. The other area that is significantly impacted is the muscle strength. We have exercise equipment on board, which you saw some in the video, to maintain muscle strength and also to maintain aerobic conditioning through either running or cycling. But still, there are some muscles that aren't used up there that we can't exercise. So we go back through a reconditioning program, if you will, after we return here. Formally, it's about 45 days. It really continues after that to get back into to shape muscle-wise. The third area, and probably the area we've been